Welcome in, my math party people. Coach Anderson here, and we're about to learn one of the most pivotal skills in algebra. All right, so this skill that we're going to be learning is called factoring trinomials. And the way that we're going to factor trinomials is going to be a pretty straightforward process, but we got to pay attention to the steps. Because again, you got to know the rules and you have to know why these rules work. And once you understand why these rules work, you're never going to forget this. A lot of the times, with enough practice, you can do stuff like this in your head. And to prove that, look, I actually generated this worksheet and I pulled it up, and now I'm doing it right here in front of you. I haven't seen this first problem yet. We have a squared plus 10a plus 24. I can tell you right now that the answer is going to be a plus 6 times a plus 4. I know that right off the bat because there's a straightforward rule that you need to learn and you're good. So let me go ahead and show you how this rule works, and we're going to practice a ton of problems here and we're going to move forward the right way. Let's get to it. So let's start off with number 1. Like we just said, we have a squared plus na plus 24. Now, here's the thing, my math party people. This is, again, a trinomial, and it's also a quadratic expression. But there's something you need to know about the way that it's set up. This is going to help us really understand, again, the steps and why they work. So let's take a look here. We have a x squared plus bx plus c. This is the standard form that trinomials, quadratic trinomials, are written in typically. And so notice this. We do not have an a in any of these problems. This is the easy version, quote unquote, the easy version of factoring trinomials. So we have ourselves, look, there's nothing in front of the a squared here, right? Or x squared or k squared, whatever you want to call it, but there's no leading coefficient, it's just a 1. And so this is what I'm going to teach you here. For factoring trinomials, this is what we're doing. Factoring trinomials. When again, the number, the coefficient, the number in front of the x squared term is 1. When a is 1. These are the rules. Step number 1 is basically find the factors of c, and this is c right over here. The number that's just by itself. There's no x on it, no nothing. The one that's at the end by itself, right there. Find the factors of c that add up to b. So find the factors of c that add to the b term. And b, I'll highlight that in red right there. That add to b. And the last step is simply going to be factor it. Factor it in terms of x right there, x right here. That's literally going to be it, okay? So I know this is shorthand text right up there, but write that down. Pause the video, write it down, because I'm going to show you through so many problems. You're going to refer to your notes, and I'm going to show you. All we're doing is finding the factors of c, the number that's by itself, that add up to b, the middle number. And this works every single time when you are looking at a trinomial where there is no number in front of the a squared or x squared or p squared or k squared term. It's just 1, okay? When it's not 1, you're going to learn in a couple of videos from now how to do those. And that's called using the AC method, and I'll teach you that nice and easily once we get to it. But for right now, let's start off with the basics and let's move forward. Here are the rules one more time before we begin. Find the factors of c, the last number, that add up to b, and then we're going to factor it out. The only thing that's really confusing sometimes for some folks, dealing with negatives, but I'm going to go through plenty of examples here and show you why that's not going to be a problem at all for us. Here we go. So let's find the factors of c right over here. 24, that number that's by itself. What are the factors of 24? Well, here's the thing. You always want to understand the rules when it comes to factoring. Everybody, what kind of a 24 is that? A positive 24, right? So here's the thing. One thing you need to understand is that you could have 1 times 24, because a positive times a positive is a positive. You could also have a negative 1 times a negative 24, because a negative times a negative is still a positive. Why am I saying that? Well, it's not going to matter for this first question, but it will matter for a question coming up in a couple of seconds here, okay? I really am very, very serious about this. You have to understand that the signs play a big part. Let me write this down for you. The signs play a massive part. Please write this down. Pay attention to the signs, okay? Positives and negatives. Pay attention to those, especially close attention. If you can pay attention to these, you're going to be golden. So here we go. We have 1 times 24. We have 2 times 12. We got 3 times 8. We got 4 times 6. And I think that's going to be it. Now, here's why I'm telling you to pay attention to the signs. Remember that you're finding the factors of C that add up to B. So, if we're taking a look at a positive 24, well, either both factors are going to be positive and both factors are going to be negative. So like I just said, they're either, if it's 1 times 24, it's either positive 1 times positive 24 or a negative 1 times negative 24, right? Does that make sense so far? Because if it does, you're good. Rewind this if you are still a little like, what's going on? Just follow along bit by bit because it's all going to come together in a moment. And just like you're watching this video for free here on YouTube, I got more free materials for you, my ASVAB party people. We've got a free practice test that comes with video solutions so you can learn from every single mistake and identify those topics that you need to crush and work on. And on top of that, you can get a free class with me on Zoom once a week. And so that's all included in my free practice test with my free class included. Click that link in this video or in the description, sign up, keep learning for free, and keep raising your score. I'm proud of you. Let's keep working hard, and let's get back to the problem. So let's go ahead here and ask ourselves, which of these pairs adds up to 10? Adds up to B? Adds up to that middle term? Well, 1 plus 24 is 25, no. And notice that it's a positive 10. It is a positive 10. So think about it. Is it going to be a positive plus a positive or a negative plus a negative? Because we said the only way that we can have this to get a positive 24 when you're multiplying is 2 positives multiplied or 2 negatives multiplied. Can you add 2 negatives to get a positive 10? No, you can't. You can only add 2 positives to get a positive 10 from what we saw before. So we know that because it's a positive 24, it's either going to be both negative or both positive. But the thing is, because the 10 is a positive 10, they have to both be positive. We know that. You got to use some clues here to really do this. And the pair that matches up is the 4 and the 6. Because 4 times 6 is 24, positive 24. And positive 4 plus positive 6 is positive 10. So that's what's going to work, my math party people. And that's what we're going to use. So boom, we found it. And we know it's going to be a positive 4 and a positive 6. So now we're going to factor it out and do x plus 4 times x plus 6. That's exactly how it works. Right there. This is exactly how it works. And let me prove to you that this works. Let me prove to you. Watch. At this point, you should have seen my videos on how to multiply polynomials. Here, we're doing a 2 by 2, but the rule stays the same. Make sure that everything from one parentheses multiplies with everything from the other. So let's go ahead and work on that here. Watch this. X times x, x squared. X times 6, 6x. 4 times 6, 4x. And then 4 times 6 is 24. Notice how we have some common terms here, some like terms. So the final answer will be x squared plus 10x plus 24. Exactly what we had from the very beginning, right there. Now, the only mistake that I made here was including x, not a, but it's the same exact thing. If I were to replace all the x's with a's, it's still gonna be the same. So that's the only mistake I really made, including x's, not a's. But it's the same exact thing, my math party people. A squared plus 6, 6a, 4a, a squared plus 10a plus 24. So let's go through a couple of practice problems. And before you do, pause the video right there. Go ahead and write that down, okay? Let's go ahead and show ourselves here. The answer here was going to be D, a plus 6 times a plus 4. Let's go into the second question here. I'm going to make it very, very clear how important it is to make sure that you understand the signs. So we have 2, m squared minus m minus 4. Remember that we have it in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. The a for this method to work has to be 1. Notice that there's nothing in front of the m squared, so we're fine. So then what we're going to do, we're going to find the factors of c, right over here. Find the factors of c that add up to b. So what is c? C is -4. What is b? B is -1. Don't mistake that. So let's go try this out. So here, we're going to go ahead and find the factors of -4. Well, the factors of -4, well, we could have 1 times 4, where one of them is negative, because think about it. How do you multiply? How do you multiply to get a negative number? Well, one is positive and one is negative. Okay, cool. So we have a 1 times 4, one could be positive, one could be negative. And then we have 2 times 2. Again, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So for this to go ahead and match up to get us the b, the -1 for b, which way do we go? Well, think of it like this. If one has to be positive and one has to be negative, well, think of it like this. If I had a -2 and a +2, that wouldn't work because -2 plus +2 cancels out. We need a -1, not canceling out. We need a -1. So that's not going to work here. What about 1 and 4? Well, if we had a +1 and a -4, 1 minus 4 is -3, not -1. Not going to work. Well, what if we went the other way? What if we had a -1 and a +4? That'd be a +3. Still wouldn't work. So we went through all the cases here. None of them work. So what happens? Well, if none of the cases work, then that's it. Not factorable. Not factorable. That's it. That's super straightforward. Not factorable. Can't do it. Can't do it. So with that said, we're good here. And now what we'll do is go to number 3. Again, there are going to be cases that you can't factor, and you have to be prepared to understand that, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I did what I was supposed to do. Didn't find any factors that work, so we're good. Let's go ahead and go to number 3 and show you how this one does have a solution. Hopefully. Let's find out. So here we go. B squared minus 3b minus 18. Again, we have it in the terms of ax squared plus bx plus c. Step number 1, find the factors of c. Now notice how c is a -18. I'm going to write the factors out first, but I'm going to come back to that negative in a moment. 18 is 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, and that's it. Now notice, we have a -18. When you're factoring a negative number, one of them is positive and one of them is negative. Think about it. I can't do +1 times +18 to get a -18. That's not going to work. I got to make sure that I understand that to get a negative result when I multiply, they're opposite signs. One's a positive and one's a negative. So that's going to play a huge part into understanding how it adds up to -3. So here we go. Watch this, my math party people. Watch this. I'm going to make it very, very, very straightforward here. Then I'm going to give you some tips and hints as to how to do this quicker. So when I have a negative right here, when I have a negative, basically the shortcut is this. Hey, look, you know that one of them is going to be positive, one's going to be negative. And one thing that we should know by now when it comes to working with adding and subtracting negatives is that, look, when you are adding a positive and a negative, you're literally just taking the difference. And remember this, the bigger number tells you the sign. So for example, if I said I had, let's say, 7 minus 3, I know that's going to be a positive because 7 is positive and it's bigger than 3. On the flip side though, if I had 3 plus -7, well, 3 plus -7 is going to be negative because the 7 is the bigger number and it's negative. So why am I saying all of this? Well, the reason I'm saying all of this is because of this. Look at the result. They're supposed to add to -3. The factors of -18 are supposed to add to -3. If you are adding two numbers, one's positive and one's negative, and you get a negative result, that tells you the bigger number is negative. The bigger number is negative. And so when you look at this, I'm going to tell you right now that the bigger number, whichever of these three it's going to be, whichever of those three it's going to be, the bigger number has to be negative. And which one of these numbers has a difference of 3? Right here. The pair right there. 3 and -6. 3 plus -6 is -3. 3 times -6 is -18. There it is. We found the factors of C that add up to B. And there it is. And really quick, before we continue my math party people, I know you're enjoying this, and you can have thousands of problems just like this in our program. In our program, you have 4 main things to help you succeed and more. But mainly, in our course, you're gonna get access to recorded lessons, you're gonna get access to guided practice just like this, worksheets that you can print out and try or keep them online, and lastly, speed drills to raise your confidence. That way, when you take the test, there's no test anxiety, there's no pressure, because you've been timed before, you know what to do, and that's the feeling that we want. And all of that's included in our program and more. So take a brief moment, click the link here in this video or in the description to learn about the program, and then reach out to us if you have any questions. Sign up now, let's get going, and let's get back to the problem. So what we're gonna do is we'll say, not X, again, I'm not gonna make that mistake, but we'll say B plus 3, B minus 6. And there it is. That's going to be answer choice B right over here. But let me prove it to you. B times B, that's B squared. B times -6, -6B. 3 times B is 3B. 3 times -6 is -18. We have our common terms right here. Let's combine them. B squared. -6 plus 3 is -3B minus 18. Starting to see it? Are you starting to see it? But there it is, my math party people. I want to go ahead and show you the next one here. I want to keep going here because I really am really interested in making sure that you know this, because this is the beginning of a whole new type of math when it comes to algebra and solving equations and quadratic equations and all this stuff. That it all starts here. So I really want to make sure that you understand this. Let me go on to number 4 here. Number 4, we have m squared minus 11m plus 28. I'm going to go through plenty of examples with you, my math party people. Here we go. So m squared minus 11m plus 28. Okay, so here's what we need to understand. We're going to find the factors of C, because again, remember, just got to remind you again, there's a 1 in front of this m squared, so this is the technique we're going to use. So we're going to find the factors of 28 that add up to -11. Now, let's just, before we even begin, ask yourself, remember, there are 2 numbers that when you multiply them, you get a positive 28. What does that tell you automatically? What are the only ways that you can get a positive number when you multiply? Well, if they're both positive, 2 positives multiply to get a positive. Great. If they were also both negative, that would work as well, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Why am I saying this again? Again, it's always about the why. Why am I saying this again? Because over here, look, the B is negative. It's supposed to add up to B, right? It's supposed to add up to that B term, a -11. Think about it. If my only 2 options are 2 positives and 2 negatives, which one of them, when you add them, goes negative? 2 negatives. Because again, 2 positives, there's no way you can add a positive and a positive to get a negative number. No way. It's 2 negatives. This is what I'm trying to teach you to speed up this process, so that way you can just start looking at these problems and doing them. They both have to be negative. Great. So, because again, we know that the only way to multiply to a positive is 2 positives or 2 negatives. And then we see that to add to a negative, they're both going to have to be negative. So I'm going to make a mark for myself right over here, reminding myself that they're both going to be negative. And so, when I write down my factors, here's what I have. 1 times 28. I'm just looking for the pair that adds to 11. That's all I'm looking for. Look for the pair that adds to 11 since they're both negative. So 2 times 28, 2 times 14. There is no 3 in there. There will be a 4 times a 7. There will be nothing else. That's it. So which of these pairs adds up to 11? 4 times 7, right there. That pair right there, that adds up to 11. And if they're both negative, they'll add to -11. So booyah, we have ourselves m minus 4 and m minus 7. Booyah, right there, and you're good. Again, the rule that you're following is find the factor pair of C that adds up to B. So what do you multiply to get to the last one, but add to get to the middle one? You have to be strong with your knowledge of how signs work to make this happen. Because with that, booyah, and if you want to check your work, here you go. M times m, m squared. M times -7, -7m. -4 times m, -4m. -4 times -7 is a positive 28. Now, notice this. Do you really see where this is coming from? Notice how they multiply here. -4 times -7 adds to that positive 28, or multiplies that positive 28. And then the -7 and the -4 add to get the -11. That's where it all comes from, my math party people. That's where it all comes from. And so here, the answer would be B. I'm serious, my math party people. This is very, very, very straightforward, and I really want you to get to the hang of this, because this is really going to be the staple of doing quadratics, okay? So with that said, I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to send you off to the wolves so you can start trying this yourself here. Let's take a look for a problem where, let's take a look over here at number 7. Number 7, I think this is a good one. We have v squared minus 5v minus 36. Okay, look, from the very beginning, what can you tell? Again, remember, we have a 1 in front of the v squared, so we know we're going to use the technique. Find the factors of c that add up to b, okay? Find the factors of c that add up to b. So let me write this again over here. Factors of c that add to b. So here's the b term, and here is the c term. Let's get it on, my math party people. So here we go. What we're going to do here is we're going to say, hey, I noticed that I'm dealing with a -36. This is what I'm going to be factoring out, right? So how do you multiply to a negative number? Just think about it really quick. If you're multiplying to a negative, they cannot be the same sign. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. So they can't be the same sign. One of the numbers has to be positive, one of the numbers has to be negative. And now that we know that, if it's supposed to add to a -5, that tells you that the bigger number is negative. Think about it. If you have a small positive and a big negative and you add them, the result's going to be negative. But if you have a big positive and a small negative, it's going to add up to stay positive. So this is how you can tell. This is how you can absolutely tell here that, hey, man, I'm good. I know that they're going to be a positive and a negative, and I also know that the bigger number is going to be negative. Knowing that, I'm diving right in, and here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to find the factors of 36. 1 times 36. Nope. They have to have a difference of 5, and the bigger number is going to be negative. 1 and 36 are not 5 numbers apart. 2 times 18, they're not 5 apart. 3 times 12, no, they're 9 apart. We got 4 times 9. Yes, I already know right there, that's going to work. This right here is going to work. We still have 6 times 6, right? We still have 6 times 6, but 4 times 9 has a difference of 5. They're 5 numbers apart. And I can tell you right now, like I said before, the bigger number is negative. That 9 is going to be the negative. You see what I'm doing here? I'm using my knowledge of this concept, saying, hey, I know that if I'm multiplying to a negative, they're going to be a positive and a negative. And if I know that they add up to a negative, the bigger number is negative. Because if they added to a positive, the bigger number is positive. If they add to a negative, the bigger number is negative. Boom, right there. The difference is 5. I found it, and I'm good. And before we continue, my math party people, really quick before we continue, I know that you're enjoying this video, and I want to make sure that more people can enjoy these videos just like you. So if you wouldn't mind, just take a quick second, like this video, comment on it, just showing some appreciation, showing what you learned, and then make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that way when we come out with new videos, typically every day, you can be right there on the spot to catch on to them. So help us help others ace the ASVAB. I'm Anderson. Let's keep going here. I can clearly say that my answer is going to be V plus 4 times V minus 9. And I'm done. That's it. Because if I check my work, watch this. V times V, V squared. V times -9, negative 9V. 4 times V, 4V. 4 times -9, negative 36. When I go ahead and combine my like terms right here, I'll have myself negative 5V. And there we go. We are good. I've checked my work, I know I'm good, and I'm having a good day. So my answer will be answer choice B. So that's really it, my math party people. Like, I really want you to try the rest of these problems out here. Go up next into the worksheets, go into those speed drills, because if you can master this and then also master the other forms of factoring quadratics, like the difference of squares coming up, like looking at special cases, like looking at the AC method, once you got all those down, solving quadratic equations and word problems with quadratics, you'll be fine. Absolutely fine. And so, with that said, math party people, I am Coach Anderson. I'm always happy to be so. Let's go ahead and keep moving forward the right way, keep kicking some butt and raising that score. I'll see you in the next video. But again, if you're in the program or the course, move forward to the worksheets, speed drills, and on to the next concept. I'll see you there. And so we both know this video just helped you with your test anxiety by just a little bit. And to keep lowering your test anxiety and keep raising your confidence, that's what my ASVAB All-Access Program is for. The link's right up here. Click it, watch the video on how it works, and you'll see exactly why thousands of my students have raised their scores and gotten the jobs they want. So click there, watch the video, and sign up to raise your score. I'll see you soon.